Hey guys, it's Vicky and today I'm here to do a tag video for you, and this is a tag video that I have done the past 2 years and am deciding to do again for 2021 because it's a tag I enjoy to do and it's a great one that you can do annually. And that tag is the mid-year book freakout tag, and it was created by Earl Grey Books, so I will link the original down below. I wasn't tagged by anybody, I just wanted to do this because again, it's a video that I have been doing the last couple of years. I like the questions, it's a fun way to check in with how the first half of the year has gone. So let's get into it. Okay, so question one, the big question, what is the best book I have read so far in 2021? And this was kind of tough because I have read quite a few pretty good ones, but the one that still is sticking with me, even though it's been a couple of months since I read it, is The Devil All the Time by Donald Ray Pollock. This is a horror novel and it has sort of a Southern Gothic sort of feel to it. There's a lot of characters in the stories, and they're kind of all having their own little story, but they all converge at some point throughout the novel. And this book is just full of, you know, just depraved characters, people that are doing bad things, but it was such a ride and I just loved it. I loved the grittiness of it. It was very atmospheric, and I definitely want to check out more Donald Ray Pollock because the writing in here was fantastic. Question two is the best sequel that I've read so far in 2021. So looking back, there are kind of two answers for this. The first one I want to mention because I started this series in 2020. I've read the first 2 volumes, and then I have been working my way through Saga by Brian K. Vaughan. So I'm holding up volume 3. This was the first volume I read in 2021, and I'm about to read volume 6. So yeah, this is a really fun series. All of the books or volumes have either been 4 or 5 stars from me, so they have all been very good. And yeah, I have enjoyed them all, so I couldn't really just pick one. But then the other one that I wanted to mention, as you guys know, another series that I'm reading through in 2021 is The Chronicles of Narnia. So I did want to mention Prince Caspian by C.S. Lewis, which is the, if you're reading in publication order, is the second book in The Chronicles of Narnia. And I really liked this one the way that it kind of returned to Narnia, the way that we revisited the characters from the first book, which is The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. How they went back to Narnia and why, and the whole story was good. It was a classic sort of good fighting bad kind of thing, and it was good. I just really liked it. Question 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. So for that, I want to mention this one's actually a 5-star prediction for me, and it is the final revival of Opal and Nev by Dawnie Walton. And this is reminiscent in some ways of Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid, in which it is an oral history. It's sort of told in that sort of format about 2 musicians, Opal and Nev, who kind of came up during the punk era in the 70s, and for reasons that we don't quite know yet, they broke up, and now they're getting back together to do an interview and talk about why they broke up, what caused the split and all of that. And I just love that whole idea for a story. I love the format. I know that oral history type of storytelling isn't for everybody, but I personally love it. So yeah, this is a 5-star prediction. I'm really hoping I get to it next month because I am so excited to read this. And then question 4 is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I'm gonna go ahead and mention one that I actually just mentioned in my upcoming summer releases that I'm excited about, and that is Grady Hendrix' new book, The Final Girl Support Group. I just feel like it's gonna be a really fun ride. I really enjoy Grady Hendrix' books. I just kind of like his brand of horror, and I've always enjoyed his books in the past. And this one, because it deals with final girls, I'm sure it's going to have a lot of nods to like slasher stories and stuff, which I do enjoy. They're not my favorite. As you guys know, I'm more of a supernatural, like haunted house demon kind of person when it comes to my horror, but I also do enjoy a good slasher story. So yeah, that is one that I have pre-ordered and I'm really excited to get to when it shows up in my mailbox. Question 5 is biggest disappointment so far in 2021. And for that, I'm going to go with Penance by Kane Minato. This was another 5-star prediction that I did earlier this year that ended up being a 3-star read. Though I enjoyed the writing, I wasn't a huge fan of the way the story was laid out because you're visiting, it was like 4 or 5 different characters and they're all telling you the same story, but their version of it. So because of that, it felt very repetitive and kind of underwhelming in the end. I do enjoy Kane Minato though, for sure. I definitely want to read more of her work. The first book of hers that I read, Confessions, was one of my favorite reads of that year whenever I read that. I think it was 2019 or 2018. I loved that. It was a 5-star read, and that's why I thought Penance was going to be a 5-star read, and it just wasn't. It was a little bit disappointing, but I still definitely want to keep reading Kane Minato's work. Question 6 is biggest surprise, and for that, I'm going with a memoir, guys. I'm going to say Me by Elton John. And the reason this surprised me so much was because I went into it just kind of slightly interested. I enjoy Elton John's music. I'm not a huge fan, like a super fan or anything. I only have one of his albums and it's on vinyl, and that was only because it was handed down to me by a family member. So like, I don't really seek out Elton John music, but I was interested in his story and I ended up loving this a lot. Like I just really, his story is very interesting. He's been in the music business a really long time. So all of his stories were just, it was cool to kind of see how his music has evolved over the years and the different relationships he's had with other musicians and celebrities. And he's very funny. And he was not afraid to poke fun at himself, to admit his faults. He admits that he's a bit of a diva, and all of that. And so it just ended up being a really, really good memoir, and one that I would highly recommend. Even if you're not a huge Elton John fan, I think you would still like this. Question 7 is favorite new author, debut, or new to you. And this one is new to me because I think it was the first nonfiction book I read in 2021, back in January, was a memoir called In the Dream House by Carmen Maria Machado. And that book was so good. It actually was like up there for my favorite read so far this year. It's a very close second because it was just the writing and the approach to the memoir that Carmen Maria Machado did. It was just fantastic. And now I want to read more of her stuff. I know she has, is it a short story collection or an essay collection called Her Body and Other Parties that I really want to check out now because, like I said, In the Dream House was fantastic. It was her account of being in an abusive relationship with another woman, but the way that she told the story was just so unique and so well done that, yeah, I need more of her work in my life. Question 8 is newest fictional crush, and I say this every time I do this tag. I don't really get crushes on fictional characters. I just don't, especially in books. So I always just kind of like skip this question because I don't really have an answer for you. Sorry. Okay, question 9 is newest favorite character, and this one I actually haven't even wrapped this book up yet because I just finished it, so it'll be in my June wrap up. But there's a character in this book, Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Ames, who I absolutely loved, and I wouldn't mind if he ended up having his own story at some point because I enjoyed him so much. His name was Arcandius, I believe it was Arcandius Moog, and he's a wizard, and he was part of this band of mercenaries, and just his overall just personality was so funny. And he ended up doing so many things throughout the story to really like help the band along. He was very useful and just awesome. I just loved him throughout the entire book. From the moment we met him until the end, I was just like, yes, he is my favorite character. Yeah, I need more Moog. So yes, if Nicholas Ames came out with a book that was all about Moog, I would buy that in a heartbeat. Question 10 is a book that made you cry, and this one is another nonfiction book. It was a memoir that I listened to on audio in April, I think it was. That is The Sun Does Shine by Anthony Ray Hinton, and this was, Anthony Ray Hinton goes by Ray, and this is Ray's memoir about how he was wrongly convicted of a crime back in the 80s and was on death row and was released after being in prison and being on death row for 30 years. And it was just his experience, and it was so heart-wrenching because pretty much from the get-go, it's very clear that Ray did not commit this crime. The evidence and everything was just very poor. So the story points out the blatant racism that exists in America's criminal justice system. Anthony Ray Hinton is a black man, and so it points out just how flawed that system can be. And his story was so upsetting, but also it was so hopeful because he had such a positive attitude. And by the end, when he gets released, it was just very emotional. So yeah, that's probably the only book I think this year that I didn't quite cry. It was close. It was so close though. Question 11 is a book that made you happy, and for that I'm going with a middle grade book, and that is Front Desk by Kelly Yang. Now the story here isn't necessarily one that makes you feel all warm and fuzzy because it deals with a lot of tough topics like discrimination, xenophobia, modern day enslavement, poverty, all kinds of things. So there's a lot of heavy topics in here. But what made this book, what made me feel happy was that our main character, Mia, was such a light. She was just so positive, so sweet, so willing to help and care about others. She was just a very inspiring character, and one that I definitely think, kids when they read a book like this can look up to. She was just so sweet, so positive, and you walk away from the book just feeling good because Mia was such a good person. Question 12 is the most beautiful book you have bought so far this year or received, and I have two for this because I couldn't quite decide. And what's funny is both of these were gifts to me from my mother-in-law, so she picked out some pretty books for me. The first one is A Lot So by Darcy Little Badger, and I don't know what it is about this cover. I just love like the illustration style, how it's like there's like brush strokes. I don't really know art terms, I'm sorry. But then like the title is like metallic. And then even when you take the book off, you have like the wolves on the naked hardback. And then what I really like too is every chapter head has these really pretty, like they're simple, but they're just really pretty illustrations at the head of each chapter. And I just love that. So yeah, this book is really pretty. And then the other one that I have to mention, because every time I look at it, I'm just like, this cover is just so whimsical and cute and pretty, and I love it. And that is The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. Again, I love like the color of the sky. I love the font for the title, and kind of the quirky like cliff that this, huge, I think it's a school or an orphanage, I think, is on. It's just very cute, and you just know looking at this book that it's magical and awesome. And then question 13, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? There's a ton, guys. I've always got a list of things that I want to read, but I decided to go with two, and there's sort of a theme to them, and it's because they are both sequels that I read the first book in 2020, and like I need to keep going with the series because they're both series I enjoyed, and I need to keep going. The first one is Wondersmith, The Calling of Morgan Crow by Jessica Townsend. So this is the second book in the Morgan Crow series. Is that what it's called? Or the first book is called Nevermore. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great, and I don't know why I haven't picked up the second one yet. It has been over a year since I read Nevermore, so I need to get to it. I'm thinking I might try to approach it via audio, because I've heard the audiobooks for this series are really good. So yes, by the end of the year, I better have read this. And then the other one is another series. Again, this is the second book in the series, and it is Thunderhead by Neil Shusterman. At the end of 2020, I read Scythe, and really, again, really enjoyed it. It was a 4-star read, really wanted to like keep going with the series, so I picked this one up right away, and I still haven't read it yet. So again, need to read this by the end of 2021. And this one is I believe just a trilogy. So then I just need to read the third one. As far as the Morgan Crow books, I don't know how many there are. There's 3 out right now, I think. But I'm not sure if that's a longer series or not. But either way, I need to read book 2 in both of these series. Alright guys, so that is it. That is the mid-year book Freakout tag 2021 by yours truly. Let me know down below how you would answer some of these questions, and let me know how your year has been going so far reading wise. I would love to know what some of your favorite books have been, what some of your disappointments have been, favorite characters, all that great stuff. I would love to hear your answers. And other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I will talk with you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.